Hello and welcome. It's another Friday here in Seattle at Go Narrative, and I'm super excited to be here with you. I'm Matthew Woodget, founder and CEO of Go Narrative. Now, I was having a think about kind of some of the challenges that I've been hearing about recently that folks have been bumping into. And, one of them is I've been up 3 nights in a row. Maybe you recognize this. I've been up 3 nights in a row, and I've literally been rewriting the same paragraph 3 nights in a row. Does that resonate? Have you been there, right? And you might be thinking, oh, it's a writing problem. I've got to kind of dial it in and not quite getting it exactly like I want. You might be thinking, oh, that's why we want to go and listen to the Go Narrative stream, because maybe there'll be some ways we can polish it, or to talk about it in a way that's going to be a little bit more engaging. People are going to get it, right? But it's not a messaging problem. It's not even a story problem. It's more of a functional problem. It's a foundational problem. It's a spine problem. It's a sign that your story can't compress, right? And what do I mean by that? It's you write something and you use it with your team and it just doesn't quite work, doesn't quite land. It might be because when you hear them repeat it, it's not how you intended it. Or it might be that when you hear them repeat it, that it's pushing in the wrong direction. It might even sound almost right, but somehow it strategically is not leading anybody where you want the company to be led. And you literally just wrote this last night, and you're like, and you shared it with some of your key team members, and you're hearing the same problems keep happening. You rewrite it the next night, same problem keeps happening. And if it can't compress, if it can't travel in that first jump, that's a really good indicator it's not going to travel at all. So you definitely want to be paying attention, right? It's kind of the symptoms that you need to be paying attention to, the symptoms that are the leading indicators of some big problems. And that's exactly what we are here to talk about today. It's this before Series B, if we're going to get from Series A to Series B, if we're going to get the Series B funding, if that sounds like you, then you're in the right place. And it even if you're not going for Series B funding, but you're in that kind of, our team's grown, we're about 20 people, we've edged up from the couple $1 million of revenue, we're pushing up now towards 5. It could be a similar kind of place, because the funding aspect it's a good categorization, right, for the types of challenges that we start to run into when we start to grow, and we need those stories to compress. It's like encoding, right? It needs to be able to be encoded, travel unencoded, and be the same message as it was in the first place. And the 3 paragraph problem is one way of putting it. I bet you could probably name half a dozen other similar types of challenges, right? It could be a pitch deck being recreated, time and time again, or it could be some other recoding creation exercise or refining exercise, right? But this, I've rewritten that paragraph 3 nights in a row. It's a really good indicator. And now, everything I've said so far was about hearing other people on the team say it. You might not even be happy yet with the paragraph, and that's okay. If you're in that place and you haven't even tried to share it yet, you've come to the right place. And the reason why you're rewriting it is because of what you heard your team saying when you sat down in that sales meeting, or you walked into that meeting and it wasn't doing what you wanted it to. The story wasn't doing what you wanted it to. And that's why you sat down and you're on your second or third iteration of that paragraph. And so you've come to the right place, because you can take what you learned today and you can go in and you can apply that before you start sharing it with your team. Now, I don't want you to panic, right? It's very easy to start to panic when you realize something as important as the core vision of the company, or the core mission, or the things that you're trying to get the whole team to do together aren't clicking. That can be a moment of panic. And as a founder, you've dealt with a lot, and you continue to deal with a lot. So the panic sometimes is an aggregate, right? When you're dealing with a bunch of stuff, you're spinning a lot of plates, and it just takes that, the straw that breaks the camel's back, right? And I tell you what, when it's what you want your team to be saying, and they're not saying what you want them to be saying, that can be one of those final straws that push things over the edge. And it's vital, right? It's something that was easier when you're a smaller company, when you have your fingers on everything, and including the website. And the website is another place where we see this show up, right? And that's why we do these web teardowns, because we can go and we will look at we've got an unsuspecting victim waiting in the wings here to share with you, and it shows up in the website, right? That the failing paragraph shows up in the website just as much as it shows up in those meetings. And that's why I say it's not a messaging problem, right? Even if you're really focused on your messaging and your positioning and being very precise about the market and the pains and how you help solve those pains, even the reason why you do that, if you think back to the very early days of the company, is because if you don't get that stuff right, everything that comes after it is going to have problems. And creative messaging is very much down that path, right? And it doesn't have to be super creative. It could be, yes, it could be copy on a website, but it could be elements of a pitch or things that you want the team to be repeating. But the point being, anything where you then are expressing those fundamentals in a message, right? And that's why it's not about messaging. And if you focus on it just from a messaging perspective, you're going to keep that thrash. You're going to keep spinning those wheels. You're going to be up yet another night in a row rewriting that paragraph again. And that's why we love to look at the homepages, right? Because it's a good indicator of whether the types of challenges that we see in any company, right? Because if we see a challenge on the website, more often than not, that same challenge is manifesting in other media, right? In other mediums. And the net effect of this is your website and your team are all explaining things in a different way, right? And that becomes confusion, right? And confusion is friction, and friction works against a sale. And that could be a engagement with somebody on your website, it could be in a sales meeting. It is the one thing that we need to get right, because if we don't, then everything else after it is a challenge. So we want to set ourselves up for success. And that's ultimately what this is about. It's about setting ourselves up for success, making sure that that message compresses and that it travels within your organization and outside your organization. Because, we're talking about, we're also talking about fighting to get funding at Series B. And you may have a great conversation with a potential investor. What happens if that when that person who's in that meeting from that VC firm goes back to their firm? Are they able to take your message and have it travel? Right? So far, we've chatted a little bit today about your team, your website, but having that message travel with your investors is just as important, if not more so. And if your message doesn't compress, then it's not gonna, it's not gonna travel. And that's again a fundamental thing that we need to make sure that we get right. And we get it right by focusing on the right stuff, the right bits. And one way we can do that is we can have a look at a website and we can identify where one of those things is, and we'll see how the message doesn't travel in other places as well. And we'd like to talk about customer journeys, right? Don't we? We all like to talk about that. We also often one of the most famous types of journeys we've all heard about is the hero's journey, right? This idea of going out into the world and having to deal with some challenge and then ultimately overcoming something and then coming back a changed person. And the thing the hero's journey serves a great many types of storytelling, right? It's Joseph Campbell decoded it from looking at all the books and the movies, right? It's one of the most kind of fundamental story aspects to who we are, right? We're in that journey ourselves every day, not so much as this hero character, right? But as somebody who's dealing with a lot of stuff. And if you look at any of your favorite films or your favorite books, does the hero start off as a hero, right? They don't. They start off as a farmer or a crop duster or a worker in a factory. And it's only through the experience that they become this thing called a hero. Just like through the experience of interacting with us on our websites and our sales conversations, does a customer become a customer of ours? And what our mission is to help them go from being where they were, the farmer, the factory worker, to being the hero that they can be and helping them achieve that. And the reason why I mention this is because the journeys that we go through are so important to the companies we found. Like, you as a founder of a tech firm have most likely founded it because of experiences you've had and what you've learned. I saw a stat last week. I saw it was on GeekWire, and it basically said the myth of the college dropout unicorn founder was literally a myth. And it said the people who really found unicorns are operators who've been in the space for a long time, often with technical engineering backgrounds, and that's where they come from. And so you go from being in that place, the operator, right, you're building the stuff, working the stuff, to having this realization that you can do something differently and bring it to the world. And that's what you do. And that's, we'll see when we look at the AI company that we're going to pull up in a few minutes, we'll see that we can imagine where they came from, right? Without even going into any of the background. And for me, all of this goes back to 1978 when I was about 6 months old, and the environment that I was in, it forced me to have to try and make sense of what was going on. Now, we as humans all have to do this anyway, but all of our formative experiences have some of the experiences are dialed up to 1 or 2 or 3 on the volume knobs, and then there's always something about our own personal journey that was cranked up to 11, right? And for me, it was this making sense of things, trying to understand the environment that I was in. And then that continued so much so that one of the ways I started doing that is I started keeping a journal in 1986. And this wasn't something at the time that I was like thinking this is why I do this, right? It's with hindsight, having gone through the journey myself, that I've realized that this is what was one of these huge kind of parts of why I do what I do and do that making sense motion. And in 1990, that diarizing of my life went to every day, and every day since, and just finished another one last night, another notebook, and firing up a new one. And I've actually got a stack of them right here. These are my favorite, the ones that I use, and it's something just a part of what I do, right? It's like this stuff that's a part of your life that's a part of what you do. Fast forward to 2012, not only was my second child born then, but I got this opportunity to be a chief storyteller for a division at Microsoft. Wow, what a fantastic channeling of this passion that I had, right? And then in 2017, I took it to yet another level, and that was founding Go Narrative so I could help you all do this. And for me, it always starts with heart. It always starts with a desire, right? You're doing this because you're passionate about it. Your customers are trying to do something that they're passionate about, right? But does everything in life that we want happen automatically? No, there's always challenges that stand in the way. There's these difficulties that come along and slow us down. And that's why the stories we tell our friends over dinner are interesting, because of the challenges. It's why movies are interesting, right? It's a fundamental part of who we are. And none of that matters, though, if we don't have the experiences and we don't put ourselves out there into the world. And then that's the next step, right? Is that direction. How do we take that direction? And I used to talk about this as being the untangling of the knot, denouement, but I've, for a few reasons, including helping some ESL master's students coming up with sales enablement and storytelling, is simplicity. So I've been thinking for a while about the untangling of the knot is a bit too backwards facing, and the direction that we can go in is very active. And so we take these three very active things. We want something stands in the way, and we have to find a way through it and into the future that we want. And so it all starts with that. And that is what will lead us now to this screen share of, here we go. Let's go ahead and start sharing. That is can we get that up? Okay, is it coming now? Okay. Here we go. Okay. Try and remove our distractions here. So spin.ai. So here we go. Spin.ai. Now, the companies that we pick for these teardowns have not given us, we haven't asked for permission. This is a public website, right? And the challenges of running a business are not lost on me. And running a website, the challenges with running a website are also not lost on me, whether that's us and Go Narrative, or it's when I was one of my good friends who used to run Microsoft.com. You're trying to carry a lot of weight, right? And what I hope you can take away from this, if you're Spin.ai and you're watching, is this is an opportunity to take things to the next level. And whilst it is a teardown, I'm a big fan of the constructive feedback. So what we have here is a couple of things that jump out at me, right? SaaS security solutions that protect and recover your data fast. That is a very broad picture, right? And I always love to think about the person who's on the website, who's visiting the website, whether they're an expert or not. And a lot of early market, a lot of like getting to Series A, moving through Series A, a lot of that can be early market, the people who are looking for an advantage. And it's very easy to fall into the trap of continuing to talk to the people in the way that you used to, right? I'm a big fan of saying the story that got you here isn't going to get you there. The story that got you to Series A isn't going to get you to Series B. And the market that got you to Series A isn't the market that's going to get you to Series B. It's going to be that expansion. It's going to be that growing of that market. And that's why this is such an important moment for companies as you move from that Series A to Series B, or equivalent level if you're privately funded, if you're not seeking external funding. And here we have something that's very broad, right? We can't form a mental picture of what this is. What is it that Spin.ai do? And then we see what they protect, right? And there's multiple categories, multiple technologies that we're seeing here. Does it compress? I mean, I'm not getting a strong sense of what is unique here, right? And I'm sure there is some unique elements, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have got to the level of where they are today. And the challenge is that this needs a meeting to explain it, right? Multiple products, multiple categories. Got to request a demo because I can't figure it out on my own. Now, that'll get you so far. Do you just want to go that far? Or do you want people to get it, right? And when we're introducing like SaaS backup and recovery, SaaS security posture management, risk assessment for browser extensions, each of those is its own category, often its own budget as well. And you've got some of those are competing budget line items in your customers or in Spin.ai's customers, right? And that pushes towards this ultimate end goal, which is we got to have a conversation, right? Now, of course, like there's going to be a point where you have a conversation with a salesperson. The problem is you don't want your visitors to your website needing that to know that they want to take a next step. You want the moment where somebody chooses as a prospect to speak with you, that they're taking that next step in their hero's journey, right? And you want to give them enough to be able to do that. And as we can see, as we continue to go down the page here, I could see this being a lot of different companies. In fact, they cover so much ground that it could be a lot of different companies and a lot of different solutions, literally and figuratively. And this is, let me pull up something real quick on my side. Let's see. So this is I'm looking for a bit of information that I think you'll find interesting. So here we go. So $40 to $50 million of annual revenue. Okay. And now I think in this case, actually, so the latest funding that Spin.ai received was Series A funding. And they're in the sort of 50 to 100 employee range. I think there were, I don't remember exactly, but what does that mean, right? Well, it means that clearly they've got some decent run rate, right? They've clearly sold to a market where the people are so far down that journey that they're ready to have this type of message. But the things we said to get us to today are not going to be the things that we say to get us to the next step. And I literally had a conversation with a founder last week, I think it was, where he couldn't tell me what they did. He had to show me. He had to do a screen share and show me. And if that is you, or if you find yourself in a similar situation as we've talked about with Spin here, that is something that you really want to take a long, hard look at this weekend. And I would recommend that you go and look at your website, right? Go and look at that content that you're rewriting, right? And in fact, make sure that we've got a couple little, so this is what do you do next? This is your weekend homework, right? That's why we do these on a Friday, because I know that you want to figure out what story you're telling tomorrow. Well, this weekend you want to think about that, right? So rewriting that little paragraph you've got is go up to gonarrative.com and go and check out what we've got up there. We've got a business storytelling assessment. You can use that by all means. But the reason why I really want you to go there is go have a look at what we're saying, right? And look at the difference between the homepage you saw today and the human connection that we seek to make, right? Because at the end of the day, it's whether or not AI takes over completely. Until the laws change, there's always going to have to be a human throat to choke because of litigation and legal frameworks that we have, and so there's still going to be humans involved. And the day that we have companies selling to each other pure technology play, that's a problem. A problem we'll deal with when we get to it. Right, a bridge we'll cross when we get to it. But for the time being, no matter how much AI we're throwing into the mix, you still have people who have to be interested in what you're doing and engage with what you're doing and wanting to take that next step. So go have a look at our gonarrative.com and book a narrative assessment. We'll take 20 minutes or so. We'll have a look at, you'll share what you're trying to communicate today, and I will help you see what the problem is, right? Is this, the story is not traveling? Is it not, does it make sense? Like, where does it not make sense? Is it something that isn't making sense because of how you're telling it? Is it too complicated so it doesn't compress, right? You'll share it and we can have a conversation about that. And LinkedIn as well. So you can pop up onto LinkedIn. If you join this through LinkedIn, you can comment below, do a DM. We can engage that way as well. But I love figuring this stuff out. This for me is like, I get a kick out of making sense of the world, and I love technology, and so helping you make sense of the world as it relates to your technology. Mwah, chef's kiss, perfect match made in heaven. And even if you get your paragraph right this weekend, I want you to make sure that you keep thinking about that idea of it compressing, right? Does it travel beyond you? Does it travel without you, right? Whether it's on the website or it's in a meeting, a sales meeting, or it's one of your team. Keep paying attention to that, and keep paying attention to how much energy and effort you're having to spend on keeping that on track. Because if that is an ongoing problem for you, then we should definitely talk. And if it's going great, fantastic. I'm sure you know somebody that would benefit to come into next week's stream. So stop by next week. We're talking about something a bit different, but it's all in service to helping you get your message across in a way that makes sense out of all the complexities that we know that you have in your business, so that it clicks with the VCs that you're having conversations with your sales team, with the people visiting your website, taking all that beautiful complexity and making sense of it so that the world, your buyers, your investors, can make sense of you. When they make sense of you, they'll want to buy from you, and you'll be able to march forward towards Series B. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have a great weekend, and I will see you next week.